Hello everyone and welcome to another Craftin Desert Divas new release highlight, this time featuring the brand new box die. When you first receive your dies, they're going to come all connected by these small metal tabs. For this die set, you are going to want to separate these from one another, so you can do that one of two ways. You can use your wire snips, which you can find online or at your local hardware store, or you can simply bend them back and forth at that wire tab until they fall apart from one another. Once you're finished separating all of your dies, you should be left with 14 individual dies. The first is the box, then you've got the supports, the two panels, which both have stitching detail on them, two different sized banners, these both have stitching on them as well. Then you've got two different extenders, one straight, one curved. Both of them do have stitching on them. Then you have two different size flowers, two different size centers, and two separate centers as well. There's a closer look at all those dies in this die set. Now these dies can be used in any die cutting machine that accepts wafer thin dies. This is a bit larger, so it does need about 6 inches of paper, so as long as your die cutting machine can accommodate that, it will accommodate these dies. So I'm using my Big Kick today, multi-purpose platform, both tabs down, a cutting plate, one piece of heavyweight cardstock, and you can see that that die is pretty big. I cut this paper in half, and it needs to be 6 inches across for that box die, so I'm going to go ahead and cut the supports with this piece. And then I just lay that right down on top, put my cutting plate right on top of that, and run this through. Now the supports as well as the box and then one of the banners also have the embossing lines on them. Now I found that these are pretty thick embossing lines, so if I just run it through once and then back through, I don't need to use my embossing mat at all. I can just fold these back and forth, my emboss line is in there, and that's all I need to do for this die set, so it really does save a lot of time. So before I take you through how to put the box together, I want to take you through all the extra dies in this set. So you first get two panels. Now these go over the box die itself, and they're great little additions to really brighten up your box. Both of these have stitching detail on them, and you'll see you have a bottom panel and a top panel. Now you also get these great two little extenders. One is straight, the other has a curve to it, so you've got two options, and again these both have stitching detail on them. All the stitching does match the Craftin Desert Divas die stitching, so you can mix and match without worrying about having to find that matching stitch. Now you get two different size banners. You get this large banner, which could also be used as a ticket. I think it looks a lot like one. And then you also have this great other little banner, and this one does have one of those embossed lines in it where you're going to fold on there. When you fold it in half, you get this great little banner that you can put over any size of little ribbon, stamp a little letter on it, and create your own banner that way. Now moving on, you also get two different size flowers. You can put these together and make one flower with two layers, or you can use them separately. I did it both ways on my card. And then you also get two different centers, which again you can use separately, or you can use them and layer them up together. In both centers you get two different sizes, so you've got this one with all of these little holes in it, which would make a great little sunflower type, or you get these little bursts which look like little suns in the center of the flower, again in two separate sizes, so it matches your sizes of flowers. There's a closer look at all those flower dies. And finally, this will be over on the Craftin Desert Divas website. It is the measurements of all of these dies. Now moving on to putting this box together, you're going to need a piece of 6" by 6" paper, so the 6x6 paper pads in the Craftin Desert Divas shop will work for this. So you can make a nice pattern paper box for this. I'm going to show you with plain white cardstock today. Now to make this box, you're going to need to use that large box die that comes in the set, and you're going to run it through your machine twice. You need two of these die cuts to make one box. Now like I said before, I ran this through once and I've got nice embossed lines on it. You can run this through again and they'll be even deeper, and I don't need to use my embossing pad with this die set at all. Now once I have both of those done, I also use that support die and I cut 3 of those. Now, next thing I want to do is go ahead and fold all of these embossed lines that are on my box, and I'm just going to use my bone folder to make them nice and sharp creases. So I had this center fold, and then I've got these top two flaps. You've also got this little tab right here that I'm going to go ahead and give a fold and make sure it's nice and creased with my bone folder. Now, Mindy, the creator of these dies, she gave me a tip too. If you don't want your back piece, where it's going to be the back part of your box die, to fold down, just don't crease one of those folds on the top, and that's going to stick straight up. You can add your panel to that, and you can add your sentiment if you don't want to use the banner dies. Now I'm going to use score tape on this. This is another one of Mindy's suggestions, just because it sticks and it holds really well. So for this portion of the box, I'm going to use score tape. I've just put 2 pieces along those tabs, and then I'll line up my first tab with the left side of my second box, like you can see here. Make sure that's nice and flat and really well sealed. Then I'll go ahead and peel up the backing paper on my second tab, and I found that if you just kind of fold that over, you can see I'm kind of wrestling with it here. The quickest way I found was to fold it over like it's gonna lay down flat, and then just fold the other side over as well. Then you've got your box die perfectly symmetrical, ready to go. Now I'm going to show you how to put these supports in. But really quick, I want to go over this picture with you. This is another one of Mindy's tips. If you want your supports to be completely symmetrical and you've got evenly spaced supports in there, make sure that tabs are facing the outer edge of the box each time you put them in. And I'll show you what I mean here. You can see I have those arrows showing you which way my tabs are facing. And this is just going to help me get them nice and even. So on this portion of the putting it together, I'm going to be using liquid glue because it gives a little bit of wiggle room. Again, this is another suggestion from Mindy, who designed these dies. So once you stick that support in there and you use your liquid glue, go ahead and make sure that both ends of those tabs are bumped up nice and tight to the outer edge of that box. Then I'm going to hold them in place just for a minute. You can see you've got a little bit of wiggle room just to move them around a little bit, and then I'll fold it nice and flat, making sure that those tabs are secure and that it will still lay flat. This is a great way to keep checking your box as you go along, so you don't end up at the end of putting it all together and then you have a box that won't lay flat, so you can mail it. So you just want to keep checking that to make sure it will lay nice and flat. Now for this second support, I'm going to go ahead and go to the other side of the box, make sure my tabs are facing the outer edge of the box, and then I'll go ahead and pinch it shut just so I get that glue nice and sealed in there. Make sure it's nice and flat and everything will lay nice and flat. And I'll go ahead and fold it the other way as well. Give it a nice press with my fingers. Make sure that glue is very secure in there. Now I should mention I am using multimedia matte, which you can find in the Craftin Desert Divas store. I like this because it dries very quickly. It's going to hold, and also it dries matte, so if I get any while I'm putting in these supports on the outside of the box, it's not going to show up. Now for this last support, I went ahead and turned one tab towards one side, the other towards the other side, and then I'll go ahead and place this in, kind of eyeball it, but you can look at those tabs, see how far they're away from each side. Since you know that both of the tabs on the outer edge are the same distance, you can get this one spaced nice and well. I'll go ahead and hold this in place, and then you can see here that my tab wasn't closing all the way, and that is why I do kind of close it as I'm going along, because I was able to move it in time where I didn't completely mess up my box and it wouldn't close flat in the end. Now here are all the measurements of the box put together, the actual box die cut, the support, and also the box when it's laying flat. These will all be over on the Craftin Desert Divas website, as well as this instruction sheet, which kind of gives you an idea of how to put that together if you need more reference. Now, at this point, you have a fully assembled box that is ready to be decorated however you want. If you want to stop the video here, you can, or you can keep watching it. I'm going to show you how I decorated this box that I put together. So using those 2 panel dies, I went ahead and cut 4 of each from craft cardstock. Then I just put some adhesive on the back of them, and I'm going to go ahead and place these down. This is another suggestion from Mindy. She said before you put these panels on, go ahead and just put your box together. That way, if you do mess up on your box or you need to start over, you don't waste your panels. It's easy enough to go back and add your panels once everything is finished because the box does lay nice and flat. Now you can see here, I did add those craft panels to both the bottom and the top flaps. Now if you wanted those top flaps to hang down just a little bit further, you could add the panel to the back side of that. That's going to create a little bit more weight, and then it will just help those sag down a little bit more. Now I went ahead and die cut a bunch of those flowers from different cardstocks, 2 different colors of pink as well as some pattern paper. I die cut some of those extenders from green cardstock, and now I'm going to put together these flowers. So I layered up a front and a back just to cover up the extenders so it looks nice from both the front and the back. It's completely unnecessary to do that. I just took that extra step. Then I added centers to the flower, and I did layer these up. So some of them I put on pattern paper, some of them I put on regular paper, just for a nice assortment of flowers. Now from the extenders, I also cut some acetate, which is a great way to make your extenders see-through so you don't see them as well. So these clouds are going to look a little bit like they're floating in mid-air. Now these are from the Scene Builders die set from Craftin Desert Divas. I went ahead and added these to the mix as well as a few other dies just to decorate them. But I did want to use those flowers and the panels and show you how I put my card together. I also used some different dies from the sets. These are dragonflies, and again I'm putting these on clear extenders. They're the straight ones, front and back. I also did a butterfly and also the sun from the Scene Builders die set. For the sun, again, I'm going to put it on a clear extender. This is going to be the straight one. And then I just put that first sun down with a little squirt of glue, added my extender, and then I'll put this second sun on and kind of offset it just a little bit so it's got a nice bursting effect. Then finally I've got my little butterfly, a little drop of glue with that clear extender right in the center, and then I'll go ahead and put my other butterfly right over the top of that just so it gives it a nice finished look. Again, this step is completely unnecessary. I just wanted my card to look like I didn't want the extenders showing from the back either. Now I went ahead and put that butterfly together. I also die cut some clouds with the scalloped border dies, the stitch scallop border dies. I also die cut some grass from the Landscape Border 2 die set. I cut 2 banners with the largest banner that looks like the ticket, and then 2 more of those straight extenders from craft cardstock. So quite a bit of die cutting for this card, but I think completely worth it. So I'll finally put that last little piece right on top, and now it's time to start assembling this box die and putting everything in place. Now the first thing I want to do is go ahead and start with my cloud border, and I'm going to start with the banner, or the little post sign that I made. I used the May Your Day Bloom with Happiness from the Market Stand stamp set from Craftin Desert Divas. I just stamped that with some black dye ink, and then I've got that sun that I'm going to put to the right hand side of it, and there's that grass border die from the Outdoor Landscapes 2 die set that I'm going to lay right over the top of that to cover up the ends of those extenders. Now to glue these down, I'm going to be using some liquid glue today. This just gives me a little bit of wiggle room as I'm moving things around and playing with placement. So I'll go ahead and place that post sign that I've made down, and then next comes my sun. Now the great thing about these extenders are you can use them as is, or you could also, especially with the straight one, you could make them even longer just by doing some selective die cutting. And you can make these as long as you want, so you can have stuff really bursting out of your box die if you wanted to. So over those ends of the extenders, I'm going to place this grass border die, and I'm also going to tuck one right behind there as well, just to cover up the bottom of those posts a little bit better. Here you can see I cut another one very quickly, and then I'll go ahead and just tuck it right behind this other grass border that I've already put down. To do that, I'm just going to use my quick sticks tool to kind of lift that up and slide it right behind there, and that will stick right in place. Now this panel is going to be my very back panel, so I'll go ahead and cut that grass border flush, add some double-sided adhesive to the back of that, remove the backing paper, and then I'll slide it right down in to that very back slot, give it a nice press, shut my box, make sure that it shuts and lays nice and flat, and then I'm ready to move on to my next support and decorate that one. Now for this, I'm going to go ahead and put my cloud border on the very back of that support, and then I'll put the grass on the front of the support to cover those up. Now another tip from Mindy is whenever you are cutting your borders to put in and decorate those supports that are in there, whether you use the wave border, grass border, a hill border, you need to make sure that it fits the extender or the support and it doesn't go any longer than that support at all. If it does, your box won't shut. So once you stick it in there, just give it a nice press, make sure your box shuts and lays nice and flat, and then you can go ahead and move on. But you need to make sure that the length of that is right so it doesn't go too far over, or else you're going to have a wonky box that won't shut or lay completely flat. Then you can't mail it, and you don't want that. So for my grass border on the front of that, I'm going to go ahead and put 2 flowers on, some more double-sided adhesive, and then I'll go ahead and place that right down on the front of the support. You can see I placed that cloud border on the back of the support. I used one of those clouds with the clear extenders on that, and then I'm going to move up to the next support. Again, I'm going to be using that same cloud border, and each time I place one of those clouds borders down, I'm going down a step. So my very back one I put in was my tallest. My next one I made a little bit shorter. This one's going to be a little bit more shorter, and I added another one of those clouds. Then my grass, the same thing. I'm going to be adding a few more little odds and ends to this one. I'll go ahead and put the dragonfly on, and then this one is going to go right in front of the support that I just put the cloud border on. Now I also added a flower to that, and then you can see my extenders are sticking out the bottom of that just to make sure that everything stays nice and flush and looks nice and put together. I'm going to go ahead and cut the ends of that off to make sure it's nice and flush with that grass border so you don't see anything sticking out the bottom of the box die. So once I had that done, more double-sided adhesive, and then I'll go ahead and place that right on the front of that support. Again, I'm going to shut my box, make sure it shuts and closes nice and flat before I move on to my next border die. So my next one, I'm going to go ahead and put the cloud again behind. I didn't add anything extra to that. I did take it down a step though to make sure it was a little bit shorter. Then I'm going to add some flowers to my next grass border die. I'll go ahead and put some more double-sided adhesive on the back of that. And if you're not sure about placement, just hold your border up, see how it looks. You can always go back and peel stuff up and replace it down. I'll put more adhesive right on the back of that just to kind of seal in those flowers, make sure they're not going anywhere. I did cut those flush with the bottom of the border. Peel up that backing paper, and then I'll go ahead and place it right down in front of the support this time. Now I'm on my last little layer here. You could leave this plain, but I wanted to add a little something to the very front of the box. So for this one, it's going to be a little bit different to put together. I'm going to start with my cloud border, and then I'll go ahead and add a few of those clouds. I'm going to add the butterfly on this one. Then I'll have to go ahead and place that last flower down. I'm going to place it right in the center. Now for this one, I'm going to have to go ahead and place my grass right on top of that, and then my adhesive is going to go on the front of the grass because it's going to be sticking to the front of the box. So whenever you're doing these cards, when you start off on the back and the front, just make sure that your placement of your adhesive is right. It just takes a little bit of working around it to get it all together. So once I had that completely done, I added some more double-sided adhesive, and I'm going to place this one right in front. I did want that flower to stick out from the grass, so I'm going to go ahead and grab it out from behind there, make sure it's in front of it, then I'll place it right in the very front, the last little slot, and then give it a good press, make sure everything will fold nice and flat. Once I close my box, and you can see it does, and it looks like I've got a great garden bursting out. And because I kept checking it as I went along and added all my layers, I know that this is going to fold nice and flat, it will fit into an envelope, and it's going to work perfectly. Now the design team has been very busy with this new die set. Here are a look at a few of their cards to help get you inspired and show you different ways that you can decorate this brand new box die. This new die set will be available for purchase in the Craftin Desert Divas online shop on August 9th at 12 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. That link will be in the description box below. Thanks for watching.